Everyone, and welcome again to another special session. I know I say special all the time, but this one really is special. It's about design strategies for effective Power BI storytelling. And interestingly, one of the books that the presenter today, our special guest, mentioned in a post that she made about how she comes about and design and Power Data storytelling is a book that I also have that I think I read at one time. So I'm certain that we are going to learn a lot, and then I'm going to get out of the way really quick. But our speaker's name is Teniloluwa. I hope I pronounce it well. The short form is easier, Teni, but I think I'm also Yoruba, so Teniloluwa Sogbesan. I hope I did well. She's going to be taking us on design strategies for effective Power BI storytelling. And this session is actually brought to you by Your BizEdge and also MHS. I'm going to just quickly mention a few things. So Your BizEdge is a Nigerian Power BI data analysis, financial modeling, both training and consulting. And I know many of you probably have heard this again, so I will not repeat what you've already heard, but I'll just mention that we use a different approach that is much more like continuous learning. We don't just train you and say you should know it instantly, or that's the way you know it from just attending some days class and we say bye-bye to you. No, we have programs in place to ensure that you keep practicing. This webinar series is one of the many things that we put in place to help our participants to keep improving their knowledge, getting in tune. We give them weekly tasks. We have the other things too that we do to ensure that, once you do our training, it's as if you have them taking a bond to know it, like you don't have to do any more training on that same thing. We also have a presence in Canada now, and so if you know anyone who is in that location in Canada who wants training consulting, they might get better service from reaching out to our Canada entity, and even if you know people in the US. Okay, so to the main thing. Speaker is Teni, and she is a Google certified data analyst. She's a technical writer. I think she will tell us anyway about her story later in. But I know that in one of the places I think I read on LinkedIn, she maybe had done a recent career shift, but in here we have it as she's still in operations management. She likes to teach actually too, so you will get to see that happen in today's session. And she's taking us on Power BI, which she has proficiency in, and much more a conscious effort to doing usable dashboards, interactive, visually engaging dashboards. So there's more to her than what we will gain today, but I'm going to share a LinkedIn in the chat so that you can connect with her. And I'm going to get out of the way now and hand over to her. So Teni, over to you. You can take over the session.
Thank you so much, Michael. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. My name is Teniloluwa Sogbesan, but you can call me Teni. And hey, Michael, can you stop sharing your screen, please?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. All right, so today we're going to be taking the course on design strategies for effective Power BI storytelling. So let me turn on my camera. Hi, everyone. So today, our course for today is design strategies for effective Power BI storytelling. Now, what is storytelling and why has it become such a buzzword? Every time we're hearing data storytelling, what exactly is data storytelling? Simply put, data storytelling is the act of presenting data in a way that tells a compelling story, making it easier for your audience to grasp the key message and take actions based on the insights presented. The act of data storytelling is the act of you captivating your audience and letting them see the action that you want them to take, and letting them see the exact actions that you want them to take. And without this approach, it can even render the most interesting story underwhelming, impossible to understand, leaving the true essence of your data untold. That's basically why data storytelling is very, very important. Now, I feel the best way to learn is through case study examples and practical sections. So this session is basically going to be a practical session, and we're going to be using this example to walk through all the key concepts. So now you're a data analyst and you were contacted on a freelance platform to create a concise report of a minimum of 3 pages and a maximum of 5 pages, right? Now, one thing I want to touch is the difference between a dashboard and a report. I know people use this interchangeably, but that should not really be the case because they are both different. And one thing I've learned, because I currently work as a data analyst for a company called Motions, and one thing I've learned along the line is that once you start working as a data analyst, you're not really going to be creating more of dashboards. You're going to be creating more of reports. And there was like this huge disconnect for me because, you know, when I was learning, I was mostly working on interactive dashboards, but reports are not interactive. They're mostly typically static and non-interactive. So you have to be able to create a report that shows every single thing, because with interactive dashboard, you know, your audience can override, they can filter, they can do all this cool stuff. But with reports, you have to show them the information they need to see without that effect of interactivity on it. So that's the difference between like a report and dashboard. And also reports show historical data as opposed to dashboard that is showing you more like real-time or near real-time kind of data. So this is like the difference between the two. So now you should know, like, you know, when to call it a dashboard and when to call it a report. And mostly reports, here, always sending it to a PowerPoint slide or creating like a PDF slide for that, because it's always structured and organized in multiple pages as opposed to a dashboard that you see it in like a single screen or page. For our class today, we are going to be creating a report. That's our assignment, right? And then this client is an e-commerce company called Bills. Bills was founded in 2021, but they experienced some changes in their sales in 2022. They contacted you as a data analyst and told you that the goal is for you to help them understand the factors that affected sales and how to drive their business growth. Now, this is all that you were given. And for this example, this is mostly focusing on a working data analyst, but I'm going to be showing how you can actually incorporate this into personal project as well. So if you're not a working data analyst yet, you can also incorporate some of these key concepts into your personal projects you want to do. So here are the key concepts that we're going to be touching on today. The first one is the importance of context. The second one is choosing the right and effective visual. And then the third one is focusing your audience attention. So these are the 3 concepts that we're going to be touching on today using a case study example. So please, if you cannot hear me by any means, please indicate it in the chat, and then Michael would, reach out to me about it. But I just hope everyone, can hear me, and I just hope I'm clear and audible. So this is the first concept we're going to be taking. All right, thank you so much. This is the first concept we're going to be taking, the importance of context. Now, this is very, very important. Before you start analyzing your data, the moment you've gotten your data, before you start your data cleaning process, pre-processing, transforming your data, you should be able to answer these very important 3 questions. Who is my audience? What do I want my audience to know? And how can I use this data to drive the audience action? These 3 questions are very important. You need to be able to answer these 3 questions before you even start analyzing your data. Now, the first question is, who is my audience? Now, if you try to communicate to too many different teams or too many different people with diverse needs at the same time, you put yourself in a position where you can't communicate to any of them effectively as you could if you had narrowed down your target audience. Now, we're going to use this example for this number 1 question. So in this case, you were contacted by someone, let's say me. So you were contacted by Tenny to come and create a report for an e-commerce company called Bills. Now, we know nothing about Bills, right? We don't know if Bills is a small scale company, a medium to large scale company. We don't know the different teams that are in Bills. So what you're going to do first is, it's always very important to ask questions. You can't start working on a data set without asking the right questions. So you reach out to me and you ask me, or you do your research. If it's a case where you can have like a back-to-back conversation with the person that contracted you for this job, then you go on Google, check about the company. Is it a large-scale company? Is it a medium-scale company? Now, for this example, Bills is a medium to large-scale company. So we know they have different teams inside as opposed to like a startup or a smaller company that, maybe one person is doing like 3 different jobs. So now we know that there are different teams in the company. So they will have a marketing team, sales and marketing team. They would have executive team. They will have operations team. They will have teams in finance. So we know there are different teams, right? And we can't just say we want to create a report for Bills in general as an entity, because there are different teams in Bills. And now what someone in executive team we want to see is different from the inside someone in marketing we want to see. And it's completely different from someone in operations. So now we have to know who our target audience is. And in this case, and this scenario, we reach out to Tenny, and you tell Tenny that, I really love to know what team is going to be using this report. And when you're asking questions like that, always ask smartly. So let the person know that this is the reason why you need that information. You can say, hello, Tenny. I want to know what team will be using this report and why you need that information. Say, okay, I want to know this so that I can target the report to suit their specific needs. Now, by doing it that way, this person knows that, okay, you understand what you're doing and you have a reason for asking. And then the person tells you, okay, this particular report is going to be going to our sales and marketing team. These are the people that you're creating this report for. Now, we already know our audience. That's the very first question. Now, if this is a situation where you're working on a personal project or you're even working for a company per se, if you're in a company, you already know the different teams in your company and you know the people that are going to be using this report in your company. So if you're given that kind of an assignment, if you're already working in a company, you know the different teams in your company. I know if your company is small scale or large scale. So that way you can kind of figure out who your audience are. And now if you want to do this for a personal project, maybe you got some data online or through web scraping, or you got it from Kaggle or any different location where you got your data from. There are some times where you see, sorry?
I want to ask you, are you in presentation mode?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay, all right. No
problem. Because I'm going to be switching my screen, so I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I guess as much. No worries. Yeah, somebody was asking, but I already answered. I'm like, let me just mention. Okay, great. Go on.
No, I'm going to be switching screens. I have like 3 different screens I want to show you, so that's why I don't want to use presentation mode. So I just hope like you guys can see this way.
Yeah, we see clearly. All good.
Clearly. All right. So I was saying, if you're going to be doing this for a personal project and you got your data from different sources, there's sometimes where you get like information, you get like business questions and you get things like that. But in cases where you just have the raw data, create like a scenario in your head where maybe it's like an hospital data set or just any data set. Create a scenario in your head where okay, you've broken down the different teams in this company. Create a company for yourself, then break down the different teams, do your research. What are the different things? If it's a hospital data set or a clinical data set, or even if it's an e-commerce data set, break down the different things you think this e-commerce company can have, and then specifically create your report or dashboard. If the dashboard you're working on, to target that specific team. Now, how this is going to help you is if you're going to start interviewing for roles and they ask you to talk about a certain project you worked on, once you start talking about this project in a way that, this is a target audience, this is what I wanted them to see, it gives like a much more, it lets your interviewer know that, okay, this person actually knows what they are doing. It's not just necessarily about the tools they use for this project, more or less about like their thought process. So that's the very first one, who is my audience. Then the next one we're going to is, what do I want my audience to know? This is, you're defining the actions you want your audience to take. So when they see your report, what actions do you want them to take from seeing your report? And this is going to help you set the tone moving forward when you're creating your dashboard or report, in a sense where it's going to let you know the color choices to use. If it's celebrating success, that okay, you can use like bright, vibrant colors. If it's urging an action or addressing a serious matter, that you have to like tone down the color choices and make everything look like very serious. So that helps you like with the tone. And from this case study, we know that okay, they mentioned something about challenges and they want to understand the factors that affected sales and how to drive the business growth. So from this From this memo, we already know that, okay, they want to know what affected sales in 2020, 2022. This is the marketing team. They want to know what affected sales in 2022, the factors, and how they can turn it around in the next year, 2023. So that is what we want to show them. We want to show them, okay, this is what affected your sales. This is what influenced sales, and this is what you can do. The recommendation, this is what you can do to improve your sales in the next year. So that is our action. The next thing is, how can I use data to drive this action? Now you go to your data and you check your data and you assess your data and say, okay, how can I use this data set to drive the specific actions that I have? So we're going to be looking at the table. So we're provided with two data sets. We have another data set and a customer data set. So this third concept involves setting your business questions. So setting business questions that would drive that action. And now I heard this method, if you're setting your business questions before actually doing your data cleaning and all of that, it helps in a sense where if you have like a table that has so many columns and so many rows, and you don't really know what you want to do to it. So it's a situation where you take your data sets now and you don't even know your audience, you don't know the actions you want them to take, and you don't have your business questions ready. If you look at this table with columns that have missing or null values and data set is just dirty in general, there are wrong data types in it. Now you start to clean your data set. You start to work on each column individually, and all of that could be avoided if you already know your audience, if you already know the action, and if you have your business questions ready, because that way you focus on the columns you actually need. So a situation where you have about 30 columns and you have some of them that are dirty, some of them with wrong data types, and you already know what you want to do, you already know your business questions, you just go to the column that you need and remove the ones that you don't need. Always remember to duplicate your data set, so if you want to go back to it, you can reference the previous data. So this data set we're going to be using is cleaned, and these are the two data sets that we have there. So now we're going to start setting our business questions. Remember, they told us that in our case study that they want a concise report of minimum of 3 and maximum of 5 slides. Sorry. So now we're going to ask ourselves, when we're creating this report, do we want to give them the recommendation at the end of the slide? If that's the case, then we have just 4 pages left, because we're going to be using 5 pages, the maximum number. So if we're going to be putting our recommendation at the end of the slide, that's we have 4 pages and then the last page for recommendation. If you want to put your recommendation inside the chart, then you can do that, and then you have 5 pages for your charts and visuals. So for this, we're going to be putting our recommendation at the end of the slide. So we're going to be working on just 4 visuals for this assignment. So we're going to start with this other data set first. Now, from this data set, we want to draft business questions that would help Bills, right? We want to draft business questions that will help the Bills sales and marketing team. Always keep that at the back of your mind, that is our audience for today. So from this, we can start drafting our business question. What's one thing we want them to see? One important thing we want them to see is how sales progressed over time. How sales progressed over time, in case there are seasons where there are holidays and all of that. We want them to know how the sales went from January to December. And how we can do that is from using this order date and sales price. So that's going to be our very first business question. We want to know how sales moved over time. The very second thing we want to see is the category, the top selling category. And now I used to see like some people make this mistake where they do category over sales price. Now, if you want to see the top selling category, and how would this help the marketing team? When they want to start marketing their products, they want to know which product sold the most in terms of quantity. So which product sold the most last year, so that they can either market that or look at the product that sold the least and then market that. But if you do category over sales price, what you're doing is that, let me give you an example. For this product phone charger that is 5,000 naira, and this product AirPod Max that is 30,000 naira. If somebody buys 3 of these products, that's 90,000 naira, and they buy 10 of this product, that's 50,000 naira. If you plot this, that's category over sales price, you would see AirPod Max is still higher than phone charger, but they sold more phone charger to AirPod Max. So what is contradicting it is because this is the unit price is higher. So in a situation where all your categories, product categories have the same unit price, then you can plot it that way. But because they have varying unit price, and I actually learned this in an interview. I did. So they gave me an assessment and I did category over sales price. And I was like, oh, this is the top selling category. And they were like, nope, that's not true. Because of this, because of they have like varying unit price. So always like keep that in mind. So what we're doing is we want to know the top selling category, the product that sold the most. And we're going to be doing category over quantity sold. Sorry, yeah. So then we are done with this particular table. We move on to the next table. That's the customer data table. Now, another thing is we are keeping that our audience is the sales and marketing team. We have to keep that in mind, right? So what would they want to see? They obviously want to see how, like, where what traffic source brought in the most conversion. So they want to know what traffic source actually brought in the most conversion and sales. So that way you're going to be looking at this particular column to see the traffic source that brought in the most conversion. Now we have 3 business questions. We need 1 more left, right? Now the last business question we're going to be touching today is gender. Now we want to understand the customer's behavior. We want to understand their purchasing behavior. We want to know what category of products did the female purchase more of, what category of products did the male purchase more of. So one thing I tend to do is when I'm working on a project is I create something in my notebook. I can either use Google Doc or a notebook. And then what I do is I write out these 3 important questions. Who are my audience? So now we know our audience is sales and marketing team. The next question is what actions do I want my audience to take? I write it down. Okay, I want to identify the factors that influence sales in 2022 and how they can devise strategies to improve that situation. That's the action I want the sales and marketing team to take. And the last thing is the business questions. I write everything down before I even start working on anything. Before I start my cleaning, before I start working on anything and analyzing the data, I write all these questions down. Now I have the first questions. How did sales evolve over time? We have the second question, what traffic source brought in the highest number of conversion? We have the third question, understanding the top selling products. And then the last question is what were the customers' preference and purchasing behavior by gender? The next concept we're going to be looking at is number 2, choosing the right and effective visual. Now, this is a very important concept because there are so many different visuals. If you open your Power BI now, you will see so many different types of charts and visuals, but they all have their different use cases. So you have to understand the use cases for each of these visuals before you can even start using them. Now, I touched on some for this class. We have line charts, we have bar charts, we have scattered plots, we have tables. Now, line chart is ideal for visualizing continuous data trend over time. So if you have a continuous data that is visualizing trend over time, you know that, okay, the best possible chart for this is a line chart. But if you want to show categorical data, you can either use a bar chart, you can use pie chart, you can use donut chart. Always avoid using a donut and pie chart, and I will tell you why very soon. Then we have a scatter plot. Scatter plot is mostly used for statistical analysis to show a relationship between 2 quantitative variables. Then we have a table. I think most people always forget that they can actually put tables as a visual, as a chart in their reports and dashboards. But tables are very helpful and essential. Sometimes if you want to show units of different measures, you can easily use a table and it's more effective than a graph in that situation. So one thing I like to do is I come to my business questions and I put the chart I want to use beside my business question. I put the chart I want to use beside before even opening Power BI. And what this makes me do is, how this helps is that when I go to my Power BI, I already have like an idea of what I want to do. So it's easy. I'm not confused when I'm seeing like so many different chart types. I just go and pick the exact chart I want. So now we said to show continuous data and trend over time. We know it's the best chart to use for that is a line chart. So now what this wants to show is how sales evolved over time. How sales evolved from January to December. And the best way to visualize this is a line chart. So we just put that down there and say we're going to be using a line chart for this. The next is what traffic source brought the highest conversion. Now we go to our data and look at our traffic source. It's a categorical data. So we know that, okay, we can either use a pie chart, a bar chart, horizontal bar chart, column chart, donut chart. There are different charts that can show categorical data. Now, the difference between a column chart and a horizontal bar chart is if you have long category names and you want them to be able to see it properly, because we don't want our audience to be standing our heads to read our visual. And if you use a column chart and your categorical names are very long, then Power BI will slant your name for you. So this is how you can either use the bar chart or the horizontal bar chart. For this, we're going to look at our category names. We see that they are not we see that there are some that have like long category names. So we can just see we're going to use a horizontal bar chart for this. Horizontal bar chart for this. Then we want to understand our top selling products. Now we go back to our table and look at our category names. We see they have like long category names, and we don't want, like I said, we don't want our audience to be like slanting their head to read our charts. So we're going to be using an horizontal bar chart for this as well. And then the last one. This last one is what is customer preference? What are the customer preferences and purchasing behavior by gender? Please, if you've gotten to this point and you have questions, just ask your questions in the chat and then we'll address them by the end of this lecture. So this is the last business questions. What were the customer's preference and purchasing behavior by gender? Now this one, I'm going to leave this one for now. We're going to look at some visual. So I went online and I checked for each of these business questions and I see how like people visualize them the wrong way. So we're going to be correcting and transforming some of this wrong way and just showing like how to do it in a new way. So these are the concepts, right? You have to learn how to focus your audience attention. Now, one thing you have to do is always reduce noise on your visual, reduce noise and reduce clutter. There are some charts and graphs that you see where there are too much numbers, there's just too much happening in that particular visual, and you've spent most times you only get like a 3 to 5 minutes window to prove your point with your visual. And if I am spending my 3 minutes on just one chart or graph that you showed to me, then you've wasted my entire time. I want to be able to look at your report within 3 to 5 minutes and grasp everything I want to grasp. It needs to be very clear and straight to the point. Avoid using so many different colors. That's now right color choices. Avoid using so many different colors. Learn how to focus your audience attention with the color that you want to use. These concepts are very important and we're going to be touching them now. So the first question and our first business question that we're going to be looking at today is top selling categories. That's question number 3. So I saw this kind of visual online for top selling category, and the person used a pie chart for this. Now I'm going to explain why this is wrong and how to actually change this. First and foremost, always try, I know it's not always possible all the time, but if you can avoid using legends, try to do that. Now I'll tell you why legends are serious time wasters. Now I'm looking at your visual, yes, and I want to see what this purple is, but I don't know what category purple is. So I have to go here and check, oh, where is the purple color? It's most likely this, right? It's airport max. And I want to know what this other purple color is. And then I have to go again and check wireless headset. And I have to do that for how many categories? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Your audience can spend about 2 minutes just trying to understand just this one visual. And imagine this is the first one their eyes see. They're going to spend about 2 to 3 minutes trying to understand what this is. And you're not storing it in your memory. So the moment I've seen maybe 3 or 5, I can't even remember what this purple is again. I have to go again and check. So that is completely wrong. Another thing is pie charts. Try as much as possible to avoid this. The reason why people use pie charts is they want to show the visual that is rounding up to 100% is a whole and is rounding up to 100%, and they want to show you parts of that whole. But do you necessarily need to show it as 100%? Like if you definitely it's a must and they specified want to see it round up to 100%. But if it's not specified, then why are you doing it? Like you need to ask yourself that question. Why do I want to show it rounding up to 100%? Is there a need for that? If there is no need, then you don't need to use a pie chart. You can easily always use a different type of visual for this, that they don't need to always look for the legends. And now we can, and somebody can say, oh, you can always just remove the legend and label it in front of it. Let's do that. So we can decide to remove the legend and just add data labels instead. And we say, okay, names are in front of it like this. But this is just too much happening in one visual. Like there are just too much happening right now when you can easily just use another type of visual to show this in a very clear and concise way. So we are going to be changing this to the visual that we suggested, and that is an horizontal bar chart. So how we're going to be transforming this data is So we're just going to copy this and then use a different chart type. So we can see that we can clearly see all the different categories this way with an horizontal bar chart. But if we switch it to a column chart, and probably we don't want to use like such a big size because like we said, we're putting it in a PowerPoint slide. So what if you have like a very specific size that you want to use? See, if you shrink it to like a smaller size, it's not showing some of the names. And we don't want that. We want our audience to be able to read all the names clearly. So that's why it's best to switch this to horizontal bar chart. So this way, even if we're using that same small size, our audience can read our categories name very clearly. One other thing to do is we don't want anybody to like have to start tracing and saying what number is this? Is it 40? Is it 41? We don't want our audience to start doing that. Like we said, we have between 2 to 3 or 5 minutes time window with them. So we want to make sure that the moment they see your visual, they understand everything. They understand what you're trying to show them. They understand your story very clearly and very quickly. And that's your point of data storytelling. So we're still going to transform this and add something called data labels. So all these technical parts, you can watch videos on YouTube on how to do this. So I'm not really going to be explaining much on this, but this is where you get the data label. So once you add the data label to your visual, you can either add it inside or outside, depending on what you want. So if you put it in the inside end, this is it right here. So the moment I see AirPod Pro, I know AirPod Pro is 60. So they sold 60 quantity of AirPod Pro all through 2022. The moment I see phone charger, I know, okay, 44 pieces of phone charger was sold in 2020. I remember we are showing a report. So all these two tips and that were over and we're seeing, you won't be able to see that in your report. So it's just going to be a simple thing. That's why you have to know how to create charts and visuals that are not interactive and also present the right amount of data you want them to see. Now we see that we understand the quantity and the numbers for each category. But one thing is there's just too much happening in this visual. Like there's numbers here, there's title here, there's title here. It's just too much, right? And we want to focus our audience attention. We want to remove noise. We want to remove noise and we want to remove clutter. So how we can go about this is removing, renaming this visual, right? Now, what do we want them to? We want them to see the top selling categories. So we can just come here and rename our visual. Title section, and we call this the top selling category, right? And anybody that sees this would know that, oh, this is the category and this is the quantity that was sold. So your title also has to explain your visual. So the moment your title is explaining your visual, you really don't need to add a title to your x-axis and a title to your y-axis because this title is already explaining it. Once anybody sees top selling category or whatever title you want to put, maybe quantity, top selling quantity per category, either ways you want to title it, it must always explain what is inside your visual. So you don't need to add this y-axis title and x-axis title. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this. So you just go here and you remove the title, and then you do the same for the x-axis. And now we've removed all the noise, right? So now it's clear. But one other thing is these numbers that are here. We already know the exact numbers for the product category. So we don't need this part anymore because we can easily tell without this. Anything that is not needed, like if you look at it, if I remove this, would they still be able to understand what I'm showing them? If yes, then you should remove it. If you remove this category, this x-axis numbers, right, would your audience still be able to understand what you're showing them? Yes, they will still be able to understand that AirPod Pro is 60, phone charger is 44, Bluetooth speaker is 30, and so on. They can still understand that. So if that's the case, then you remove this to avoid clutters. So we go here and we go to our x-axis and we just turn it off. Yeah. So now we have our chart. So can you see the difference between these two? The moment your audience see this, they don't even need to speed up to 1 minute. they already know what they are looking at. But another thing is color choice. You want to focus their attention, right? That's important. You want them to see the top selling category, and that is the main purpose. You want them to see, okay, AirPod Pro and phone charger did the most. So that is the category that you should focus on, and that is the category we want our audience to focus on. That's the category we want the sales and marketing team to focus on, because these are the two products they are going to market, right? So how to do that? You can do that in two ways. You can either put the remaining ones in the background, that's changing it to a gray color. So we just go to our bars, and then you turn this on. When you do that, you see like all the colors for all the other bars. Now what we can do is you can use a gray color to kind of send the other ones that are not too important to the background. I want them to just see the top 2 selling products. Now they can see that when their eye touches this visual, because blue is brighter than gray, the first thing they are looking at is blue. They are seeing, oh, AirPod Pro is 60 and phone charger is 44. Then if they want to see these lower ones, they can bring their eyes to it. But we're focusing their attention to this brighter colors. We can also do this by using conditional formatting. If you don't want to be changing it one by one by yourself, you can use like a gradient scale and conditional formatting, and you just come here. And what this will do is it will tell you, what format style you want. You choose gradient, and it shows you like the way the color is going to progress. So it's going to the highest value is going to have this color, and the lowest value is going to have this color. If you want to include like a middle color, you can always do that, but we don't want that for now. And can we see the way the color is progressing? But now we cannot necessarily see this data labels again. So if you want to fix this, you can just put it outside instead. So now we can see this way. Anybody that sees this knows like this, is reducing, right? You can see that the color is reducing. So this is the top selling. Like we can see that there's a gradient. So you can either do it this way or change the other ones that you don't want. Just send the colors to the background using any gray color of your choice. Any gray color of your choice. So this way now, if you look at these two visuals, right, we can see that there's like a clear difference. We're not spending so much time trying to understand what we are looking at here. The moment we see this, we can see that it's very, very clear and straight to the point. We know that, okay, it's telling us about the top selling products, and it's telling us that the top selling products are these two because of the color gradients that we're seeing. Now we're going to move to the next business question, that's purchasing behavior by gender. So now this, I saw something like this online too. So we want to see female and male, right? And like I said, always try as much as possible to avoid legends because they are serious time wasters. So now we see that there are how many categories? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 different categories, and we want to know how female, the total, what products female purchased more and what products male purchased more in. So we want to see like, we kind of want to see like the customers' purchasing behavior by gender. We want to know, okay, females, what products of ours that we are selling do they like the most? What product of ours that we are selling, the quantity, do they purchase more the most? Now, how this will help the marketing team is that when they are trying to run ads and do all of that, they would know whether to use like a male figure or a female, or however it's going to help them. I don't work in marketing, so I really cannot say. But from my research, I know that this is a business question they want to know. And remember, whenever you're drafting your business question, always do your research. Do your research on the team you're creating your business questions for. Do your research on the company. Make sure whatever it is you are showing them is what they want to see, because at the end of the day, you are not your audience. You might think this sounds like a good idea in your head, but if you don't do research to know if it will actually be a good fit for them, you can't really see. So this is something that a marketing person would want, a marketing team would want to see. But this way, they can't understand much of what you are saying. Like they have to start tracing, what color is this? It's AirPod Pro, right? So AirPod Pro, then they have to trace to maybe it's 18, maybe it's 19. They really don't know. Then they come back to here male. They have to trace again. So there's a different way of visualizing this. And what chart we're going to be using is table. We're going to be using a table to show this differently. And we created a measure for that. So I created a female measure. What this female measure does is it calculates like the total quantity sold for female, and then it calculates the total quantity sold for mail. So this is this measure we're going to be using in our table. And a lot of people try to avoid using tables, but if you want to show something and you want to show like different measures and you want to show it in a very clear and concise manner that you want your audience to understand, it's always best to opt for a table. So we're going to select the category. And these two tables are linked by this customer ID. So that's the unique key that is linking these two tables together. So we're going to select the category. Then we're going to select email. Then we're going to select mail. Now this way, if anyone looks at this table, even though it still has some things wrong with it, if you look at this table, you already know that for AirPod Max, female bought 16, male bought 13. For AirPod Pro, female bought 52, male bought 8. And what is the product that female bought the most of? From this table, we can see is AirPod Pro. What is the product that male bought the most of? From this table, we can see is phone charger. Now, it's always best from our key concepts here, it's always best to keep in mind that you want your design to fade into the background while using the table. You want your data to be what takes center stage on your table. So we don't want anything distracting. We don't want anything distracting our audience while looking at this table. If at all we're going to add anything to it or add any color, add anything, it has to prove the point we're trying to show them. It has to be that we're trying to focus their attention on something. But this way, we're not focusing their attention on anything. We're just seeing that these different categories as different color. Why? We're not really certain. I think it's a default Power BI setting. So we have to change this. And how we do that is we come here. And this total, we don't need this total. So we remove the total. And then now we want to remove this background color. So we go to style preset and we change that to none. I want to add a little bit of space in between these different categories. So how you can do that is you go to grid and you increase the width of this. I think the maximum is 10, right? And then you just make this be your background color. So now we have space between each category. If you want space between the columns as well, you do the same for vertical grid line. What is wrong with you, Power BI? I really don't know what's wrong. I'm just going to leave this for now. I don't know, the button doesn't want to click. So another thing is you want to focus our audience attention with colors, right? The same way we did it here. Same way we did it here, I want to focus their attention with colors because this way they're just seeing numbers, but we want them to see the categories that female purchase the most in and the product category that male purchase the most in. And now we can do this by just clicking on our visual and clicking on the column name here. So we're going to use conditional formatting to do that. So we click on female and go to conditional formatting. Now there are different ways you can change this. You can either use a data bar, you can change the background color, you can change the font color. So let's try changing the font color. I'm going to show you the gradient scale that is going to use for that. And then can you see like there's a gradient with the font color, but we can't see anything with this. We can see that yes, 52 is the highest, but we can't see all the other ones. So that doesn't work for us. So we're going to go back. So just going to come back here and remove it. Remove conditional formatting and remove the one for font color. I will try another method. Like I said, there are so many different ones. The data bars, you can always use data bars, but for today, we're going to be using background color. Now it's going to tell you the gradient as well. So it's similar to what we have here. And it's kind of like you're introducing something to your audience, you're letting your audience know that, oh, there's a gradient happening, right? So the moment you see the higher color, because this way it's going this way, it's going in descending order, but this is not going in descending order, right? But it's still showing that the deepest blue color has the highest number, has the highest quantity number. So that's why you're introducing like some sort of like system to your audience. So the moment they see, they already know what you're trying to say. So we're going to do the same thing for male. So we just click on the table. and click on mail and do conditional formatting and change the background color. Also, it's going to ask you for the gradient. You can always include a middle one if you feel like you don't like this color. This is Power BI default color, so I'm not changing that. So now we have our gradients here. I was trying to put like a space between these two. I don't know why it was not working. Let's try it again. Vertical grid. Okay, it's working now. So we're just going to change this to 10. And then make this be the default background color. So now we have a space between the female and the male, and you can always increase the size if you want or reduce the size depending on how you want them to see it. Oh no, we want it to be in a certain order like this. So this way, anybody that sees this table knows that, oh, you know, the most purchased product for male is phone charger and the most purchased product for female is AirPod Pro. Now you can increase like the size and all of that. Here you just come to cell element, special column, sorry. I want to change how it's aligned, how the value is aligned. So we want to align it to the center. So we do that here. We want to change how male is aligned. We just come here and apply settings. We did apply it to female. Now we're going to do apply to male. And put it in the center. You can always increase the font size. You can do all of that, but because we have like such a limited time. But can we see the difference between these two visual? The moment I see this now, I'm not spending too much time trying to understand what you're trying to say. Now I understand exactly what you're trying to say. I understand that you're trying to show me the purchasing behavior between male and female, and trying to show me the categories in which they bought the most. From this, I know that the least product that they bought was wireless headset, and they bought 7 of that. The least product for male they bought was 5, and was laptop charger, and they bought 5 of that. So this is very straight to the point as opposed to this. Now the last visual we're going to be transforming is this sales over time. Now I saw this somewhere. Someone used a tree map to visualize continuous data trend over time. This is very wrong. If you have this idea in your head, please remove it. Do not do this. The best chart and visual to show continuous trend over time is a line chart. So we're going to be changing this to a line chart. We'll just copy it. And these are like the different charts in Power BI. So you can read like the use cases for all of them. All of them have their different use cases. So you have to know when to use the different charts. If not, you're just going to be creating visuals that are kind of aesthetic and pleasing to look at, but it's not passing the information you want it to pass. So if we change this to a line chart now, we can see that it's showing us the trend over time. We can see, oh, in January, you know, there was little or no sales, and then it went up. In February, it came down, it went down again, and then it peaked in June. So this visual is much more clearer than this. I mean, difference is clear. Another thing we mentioned is we want to name our charts properly, so that if this title is clear enough, we don't need to include our Y and X as this title. So the title has to be clear enough. If your title is not clear enough, and if I see this visual and I don't understand what I'm seeing, then keep your X and Y as this title. But anybody that sees January to December already knows that you're talking about months. So we can rename this visual to, let's come here. So you can just name it anything, sales over time. And now the person knows that, oh, this is, sorry, months, not time. Yeah, so the person knows you're talking about months and you're talking about like the sales. But you can always like change the title name, but it must always like let your audience know that this is what is in the different axes. So now we can remove the X axis title and the Y axis title this way. So we come here, and then we're basically just removing noise and clutters. So there's not too much, you know, happening in our visual. So this way we can see that this is the trend. Now another thing is Power BI used millions for like the default setting, but we don't want to show that because I don't think there's any million anywhere here. And you can see it's showing 0.00, but there's actually something here, but just because of the unit it is using, so we have to change the unit to the y-axis value. Now we have to change the unit, so we can either show it in thousand. So let's see thousand. Let's see. Here is actually showing what we want it to show. Okay, so let's just use 1,000 for our unit. Because since we don't have anything in millions, we can see that, oh, this is 600,000. And there's another thing, if you want to put your data labels on your line chart, that's basically based off of preference, and also if you want them to see the value immediately. Now, sometimes some people don't really like to do this, but let's try it out and see what that looks like. So just have like your audience in mind. Do they want to see the numbers, or do they want to see some kind of range? So if you're not really particular on seeing the exact value, and the marketing team, they don't really want to see the exact values, I don't really know, but they might not necessarily want to see that. Maybe if you're presenting this visual to the finance team now, they want you to hit the nail on the head. They want to know how much was sold. That's the very first thing they want to see, the value. So if that's the case, then you turn on the data label, and the value is on top of the line chart. So this way they know that, oh, January sold this, February sold this, they made this amount, they made this amount, they made this amount. But if you feel like, that's why the audience is important. If you feel like they don't necessarily need to know this, they just want to know, you just want them to know like the range, because this way they can't really trace what the exact value. Remember, it's not an interactive it's not an interactive chart, it's a report, so they can't do this overing to see what the exact figure is. So you have to really think about it. They can't do this, they can't over it to see. So do I want them to see the exact number, or do I want them to see a range? So for today, we're just going to be using a range. So this is the third business question. Sorry, this is the third business question. So the last one is traffic source. Now, traffic source is similar to this. You're going to be using an horizontal bar chart. Oh, I think we are almost out of time. So just know that you're going to do it this same way, an horizontal bar chart, so they can see the traffic source category, they can see it clearly. So one last thing I want to show is how to, now Power BI has this feature where you can export your visuals into PowerPoint. So I'm going to be showing us how to do that before we start taking questions. And how you do that is you're going to sign in. So I'm already signed in. So what you have to do is you have to publish. So you publish it to Power BI services. So if you don't have an account, then you have to get one. But if you have one, you just sign in and you publish the Power BI services. So let's wait for it to load. So you click My Workspace, select. Now you open it. It also offers like quick insights. So if you want to get insights, you can always like use that feature. It's taking so long to load. So now you have your reports. Now the way you can send this to PowerPoint is just click on export, and it sends this to you as pictures. So you want to, it's going to ask you like what pages do you want. So you can click on export only current page, or you can export like all the pages. I think we have 3 pages here. So if you click on export. It's going to export all 3 pages for us. So let's click on that. It's taking a while. So now we have our report. So we just open it in Power BI. And here we have it. So that's exported all our visuals for us. Basically, when you're going to be doing your exportation, you're going to remove this one and remove this. And we can enable editing here. And then because it's an image, she's exported this whole thing as an image, so you can't necessarily remove this inside. But once you're going to be doing your exportation, you're going to only export what you need into your PowerPoint. So this way you already have it as PowerPoint. So now you can add your recommendation into here if you want to add it. You can add your insight, and you have to do your research again to offer recommendation and insight to the team. Basically, this is how you create your simple 4 to 5 page reports for bills. So I think I want to start taking questions now. Do we have questions?
Yes. I don't know if you see the chat. So
Okay, let me open
also there are some 2 questions that after we take the ones that are there, I will also had so questions about how you started your journey, your advice to people starting. I think we start first with the one that already is in post.
Okay, let me open the chat and read what's there.
I can also read them anyway. It's just that they're kind of long, so you might want to see them as I'm reading. Okay, so I'll try reading.
Okay.
The one on the maximize your slide, I think we've handled that one. So Mohammed is asking, how do the varying needs, expertise, and interests of different audience segments influence the design and presentation of reports in Power BI? What strategies should be employed to ensure that the information is both accessible to a novice and sufficiently detailed for an expert? How can these considerations drive more effective decision making across an organization?
This person's can you unmute this person so this person can speak? I don't really understand the question.
Okay. So Mohammed, you have a speaker access. You can unmute yourself and be able to speak.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hello.
First of all, I just have to say thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. I really appreciate all your content and deliveries. My question is just surrounding challenges we normally face in terms of different or varying audience. In the current case studies, we're only looking at people in the sales department, but sometimes we might be faced with tasks to deliver a dashboard that will be tailored across the organization, say HR, sales, and some other. And in between those individuals within those units, they will have varying experiences in terms of how they wish to consume the data. So when you're trying to strategize or plan ahead to create such a kind of report that accommodates everyone, what I'm just asking is, what are the considerations that you'd love to make ahead of time, or how you get to engage these people to understand their needs?
Okay, very lovely question. Thank you so much, Mohammed. So in a situation where you have to create a report for the whole entire people in the organization, like for the organization in general, there are some things that the marketing team and HR would want to see. So you have to look for similarities between what they want to see. And I've been in that situation before. So I just went online and I said, oh, what are the similarities between these things? What would what would they want to see that is almost like similar, and then you get all of that information. And another way you can do it is in your dashboard, you can create segments and say, oh, okay, this is for the marketing team on top, this is for the, that's if you know like the different teams that in the organization, you can kind of like segment it a little bit. That's if you have enough space for that. But if you don't have that, then just look for like the things that they would want to see that are similar. So in case where the situation where somebody that's in the executive team, if they see it is not really abstract to them because they're kind of familiar with what that is, and it's something that, you know, kind of links them to link them together. There would always be things that would link all of these departments together. You just have to do your research to figure those out. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, spot on. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Is there any other question? Do you have any other question, Michael?
Oh, I thought I was speaking without being on mute. I didn't know I was on mute. Okay, great. Yes. So let me, I think we've answered this. Hold on. I'm trying to get the position where I stopped. Okay. So I think Mohammed has combined these two questions when we told him to speak, because I'm looking at the second one and I see it.
Yeah, I think she has, basically, because all of these things encompasses you engaging your stakeholders or perhaps your audience. And some of those challenges that I was just trying to ask in my second question was in terms of when you are going back and forth with the audience, I'm kind of like anticipating sometimes users, typically, they don't actually understand or know exactly what they want in the first place. So there will be some kind of like going back and forth, like, okay, are we clear on what is required for this report? So what are these challenges based on your experience that you get to face in this kind of scenario?
Okay, so there are two different types of workflow. There's the agile and then there's the water flow kind of work. So in a situation where you know, you're doing like the agile, where like it's a typical kind of workflow where you work like in a direct and linear way, then you know that, okay, there's really no back and forth interaction. It's they give you this and then you present your work. But if it's the water flow project management way, where you know you can have like some interaction with them, you get to a certain stage and then you tell them about it, and then they say, oh, do we want this? Especially like if you've crafted your business questions first, and then you show them, okay, these are the things I want to show you, these are the things I want to visualize. And this is the way I mostly work, where in a situation where I want to visualize anything, I don't create the visuals yet. I show them, okay, these are the things I'm going to be showing you. Are you okay with these questions? Are you okay with this business questions or these things I want to show? And then if you're not, we kind of craft the business questions together. And then before we start working on the chat, because the chat choice is not really always an issue. There's sometimes where, you know, your stakeholders would want you to put a pie chart or they would want you to put a certain chart. You have to explain to them why that is not the right visual. So if you can get to that point where you explain to them why, okay, you can't use this visual because it's not going to show this properly, and then you can sort of like fix all those issues. But the communicating with them, like you know, while you're working is very important. So you don't get to a stage where you finished all your work and then they're like change every single thing altogether. That's like so much work on your own part. So
okay. Let me check again. Okay, so Mohammed, are those all the points you want to maybe like raise, share, also get them addressed? I know you also mentioned about color scheme, reading through.
Yeah, I think in addition to what Temi has said, I think some of those challenges as well, miscommunication always come across, which basically leads to designing your dashboard or your report in a certain kind of way that doesn't meet the requirement. So, you know, a good engagement and communication can literally reduce the complexity of the need for you to kind of like redo the report again. So these are some of the challenges sometimes that I get to face. And sometimes the complexity could cut across data sources as well. Say, for example, if you're sourcing the data from different data sources, that you now have to figure out your data model. So the complexity is there, and the user requirement is also coming again. So you have to figure out the balance where they kind of like meet at the middle. Those kind of challenges sometimes can create ambiguity in how you kind of like tailor the solution to them. But I think your response is quite spot on in terms of what we should be looking at. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. And
Thank you so much, Ed.
I even have a very funny, so maybe some people might relate to this. I come from an engineering background, and there is this joke that I can't remember where the joke originated from, but they say, you come up with something that it's not possible, and you ask it as a question. You ask a lawyer will probably tell you, no, this makes no sense, it's not possible. You ask, they mention like other fields, you ask them, and they will tell you it's not possible. You ask an engineer, and he's going to try to find a solution. He doesn't even he doesn't think about it in terms of does this make sense or not? Like, no, anyway, I guess it might be tied to maybe the way the Nigerian university system is, because I think it was a university we had this joke. But I see it play out sometimes in my career and in my work in data analysis. So as a consultant, sometimes I get to believe that when the customer is explaining all what they want, like maybe that's really all what they want on the visual side. On the process side, I think I'm very good with telling them that no, there's a better way, more sustainable way. If we do things this way, this data pipeline and process will break in the future when something that will changes. But when it comes to the visual one, when it comes to the charts and all, sometimes I just don't give them too much feedback, except when it's really obvious that this thing makes no sense, and someone that sees my work is going to be like, who is the quack that did this? So, but when you mention it now, that one has to be very proactive in also letting them know that even if this chart doesn't stand out as a very poor choice, we also need to let them know there's a better choice, and just maybe school them. They don't always know the right chart. So that one is something I'm going to try to remember very well. So because I'm always too focused on the process, sometimes I don't care too much on the outlook when they've taken time to present me a wireframe. So any other person wants to ask a question or comment or anything before we now go to the last two questions? By the way, Tenny, I hope you have 5 more minutes for us, because there are 2 more questions that we have for you. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine. That's okay.
Okay, great. All right. So last chance. Anybody, any questions before the house fires up the last 2 questions? Okay. All right. So question number 1 is, everyone here, usually our audience are a mix of people who are regular faces, who probably they are co-presenters, they do present too. And then we have people who are starting the journey, and for them, sometimes they need clarity on different pathways, different ways they can navigate their career. And one thing we found is that people like to learn from how those who already are in this space got into the space. So we would like to hear your own unique journey. How did you get into this data analysis space? While your parents already setting you up from age 1, when all of us were learning, going to regular school, maybe they had enrolled you in data analysis classes from age 2, and we want to know your own journey.
Okay. Thank you so much. My journey is quite I won't advise on this, but I used to work in operations. I was a membership operations lead, and then right up until December, I resigned and said I wanted to I wanted a career change, right? Because I wanted to do something that I actually really loved and enjoyed. And I registered for a boot camp in December, and we started like fully in January. So from January till I think it was January to March. I was in that boot camp, and I was also working on personal projects. I was learning on my own with the boot camps. I was doing a lot of things around that period just to grow myself and develop myself. So I started working on projects, and I was very like intentional with the kind of projects I wanted to work on. I wasn't just working on projects that everybody was working on, and I started to volunteer as well. One thing that's very important, and I think a lot of people don't know this, but it helps you gain experience. You can reach out to non-profit organization, just reach out to people that you feel like you can volunteer with them and just gain real life experience. Fine, some of them might offer not to pay you, which is okay. At that point, you just want the experience, because it's one thing to be working on projects and it's another thing to actually be working for an organization. So you want that experience, right? So I started volunteering, and at I think April, I started applying for internships. So during May, I got an internship with a US startup, and I currently work for them now. But I also volunteer at two other organizations also, because I love volunteering and working with nonprofits, because you get to gain so much rich experience from that. And yeah, that's basically my story.
Okay, great. And the second question is, for anybody starting now, someone who is not in anything data related and not in anything data analysis related and wants to get into this field and also not just be learning, but get jobs, become a value added by person in a company doing this role. What do you advise as an effective path for the person to take?
If the person wants to get into data analytics.
Yes, a complete
Okay,
novice starting from ground zero.
ground zero to getting a job, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so there are so many boot camps, so many this is where you can learn in, but my advice would be very intentional on the kind of project you choose to do. Now there are so many people doing the same projects, you see the same projects just flying around. And one thing is, when you're being interviewed for a data analysis role, is you're going to ask you to talk about a particular project that you worked on. And if you don't really if you were not really intentional about that product, you didn't properly document your project, you didn't do a project that allows you to think. So it's not specifically about the tools you know how to use. You don't see a lot of people pay too much focus on, oh, I know how to use Power BI, I know how to use SQL. It's not that. It's your thought process during how you came about that project, how you analyze the data set, how you came about like recommendation and insights. Is it going to add any value to the organization? They want to see how you think. And things like that you can't really gain from boot camps. You can gain how to use tools from boot camps, right? But you have to grow your thought process. You have to read books. There are some books on data analysis that I would definitely recommend. There's a storytelling with data book that if you've not read that book, and read that book. That book would really teach you how to focus, like some of the things I taught today and so much more, to basically tell you how to do storytelling properly. There's another book on data analytics. I've forgotten the author. That book too will teach you how to think. And I think that's why I love the Google Data Analytics certification course. It doesn't really focus much on the tools, but as much as like the thought process and how to analyze your data set and how to think. Because at the end of the day, you're coming in to help the business, irrespective of whatever tools you use. I've worked somewhere that they use only BigQuery, like they're affiliated with Google, so it's just BigQuery, Looker. I didn't even know how to use Looker prior to that, but I had to learn it. So it's not necessarily about the tool you know how to use. It's your thought process. They want to see how can you help their business grow. So one thing I would advise is don't focus too much on the tools you know how to use. Focus more on analytical thinking.
Oh, thank you. That's a very golden one. We don't hear that too often. So thank you very much. And at this juncture, I think we will be closing the session. Thank you to everyone who has joined us today. I've shared Teni's LinkedIn profile URL. You can connect with her. I think she's a friendly person, so I think she will accept your connection request.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay, great, thanks. And also, I have shared, I will share it now, but maybe just to explain to everyone, how this session came about and then some things we need. So this session is something we have in place. We had it since 2020 during the COVID year as a way for people to keep learning, not to forget, as a safe place too, where you can ask questions. It used to be more interactive than this until when we had to change the approach to people joining in attendee mode. But the spirit is still that we want people to feel free to grow their profile to, if you are very good at something, please fill the form to pick a presenter slot. One aspect of mastering something is also sharing it. Then secondly, too, we would like you to do a feedback, let us know what you liked about the session. For me, I liked the way that we had to focus more on the thought process and not just the tool, because you will see that she used the PowerPoint to first of all even explain what are we trying to achieve, then deciding on what type of chart. That's something that I'm going to be more deliberate in rather than just slapping the charts together and looking at this one doesn't look as fine as this one I've used before. Some of us, that's how we just slap things together from some patterns that we have been using before. But thank you very much to Teni, and to everyone who has joined today's session. We hope to see you in future sessions, and have a wonderful week ahead. Bye. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thank
Bye,
you. Hope to
guys.
have you again. Bye.